From the moment we're born to our final days, we're on this incredible, wild journey of change. It's a story we all share, right? Marked by all these different stages and milestones. So let's just dive right in and take a look at this amazing process, the human life cycle. So you gotta wonder, how does this all actually work? I mean, what are the hidden blueprints, the pre-programmed instructions that take us from a tiny, helpless baby to a fully functioning adult who can walk and talk and think? That's really the big question we're going to tackle here. All right, so let's start at the very beginning, that first year of life. And it's easy to think of a newborn as just a blank slate, but that's not true at all. They come into this world with this incredible built-in toolkit of reflexes, and they're all there for one reason and one reason only: to survive. And what's so wild about these reflexes is that they're not learned. Not at all. They're these powerful, automatic responses that come from deep inside the brainstem and spinal cord. For example, if you startle a baby, you'll see their arms and legs just fly out. That's the Moro, or startle reflex. Or, put your finger in their hand and they'll grab on so tight. It's amazing. These are literally the first building blocks of our entire nervous system. But hey, survival isn't just about physical stuff, right? From the second we're born, we are hardwired for connection. And this is where something called attachment theory comes in. It's all about that super important emotional bond between a baby and their caregiver. It's this powerful, deep-seated instinct to find comfort and safety, and believe it or not, it sets the stage for every relationship we'll have for the rest of our lives. So just how important is this bond? Well, a famous and kind of heartbreaking experiment by Harry Harlow really showed us. He gave baby monkeys two options for a mother. One was just a cold wire frame that had a bottle of food. The other was covered in soft cloth but had no food at all. And what happened? The monkeys spent almost all their time clinging to the soft, comforting mother. They'd only dash over to the wire one for a quick bite to eat. It was a powerful lesson. Connection and comfort are just as essential as food. And of course, we see this play out with humans with really serious consequences. Think about institutional settings where maybe caregivers are always changing, and a baby can't form that one solid bond. The result? They can experience major developmental delays. This really drives home the point that attachment isn't just a nice to have. It's an absolutely crucial ingredient for a healthy start in life. Okay, let's jump ahead to the next big phase, from about age 1 to 6. This is where things really start to take off. I'm talking about an explosion of growth. It's like a great leap forward in pretty much every single part of a child's development. And man, the milestones start coming fast and furious. By 24 months, a toddler's figuring out the pretty complex motor skills and coordination it takes to do something we barely think about: kicking a ball. Then, just a year later, at 36 months, that physical skill takes another huge jump. Now they're doing even more complex stuff, like climbing stairs one foot after the other. That's a huge sign of progress in their balance and coordination. And by the time they're 3, that connection between their brain and their hands gets so much sharper. Their fine motor skills are now good enough to copy a simple shape, like a circle. You see, each one of these little steps is actually a giant leap in them figuring out their own body and how to interact with the world. Meanwhile, inside their little heads, a whole new universe is opening up. A preschooler kind of knows the difference between fantasy and reality, but that line can be super blurry. This is the prime time for imaginary friends and wild stories. They also start playing with other kids, not just next to them. They're beginning to figure out their gender identity, and wow, their vocabulary just explodes. And here's something really interesting. They don't understand that death is permanent yet, so they might fully expect a pet that has passed away to just come back. All right, now we're moving into the school age years, and this is when their brains get like a major software update. This is the stage where all that magical thinking starts to fade out and logic starts to take over. And they get way, way better at figuring out the complicated world of social rules. A perfect example of this new logical brain is the idea of conservation. So picture this. You pour water from a short, wide glass into a tall, skinny one. A little kid might think the tall glass suddenly has more water, but a 7-year-old, they get it. They understand the amount of water didn't change, just the shape of the container. That's their new logical, organized brain at work. Another big cognitive leap they make is something called seriation. It sounds fancy, but it just means they can now arrange things in a logical order. From smallest to biggest, or shortest to tallest. It's one more piece of evidence that their mind can now think in a structured, systematic way. And this is what it looks like in the real world. This newfound ability to sort and organize things is why this is the age kids start having collections, right? It's how they start to make sense of a world that's getting a whole lot more complex. And then we hit the teenage years, adolescence. This is that huge and, let's be honest, often stormy transition from being a kid to becoming an adult. It's a time defined by massive physical changes, a maturing brain, and this really intense search for who you are. And it all gets started with puberty. That's the biological kickoff, the process where the body starts to change and develop into its adult form, bringing on secondary sexual characteristics and, of course, the ability to reproduce. This huge physical transformation naturally brings this intense focus on things like body image, popularity, and just figuring out where you fit in. And it brings a ton of new challenges, too. Things we might think are small, like acne or obesity, can cause real psychological pain. This is also famously a time for risk-taking behavior, which tragically is why unintentional injuries are the #1 cause of death for teenagers. And understanding how they think is so important for how we talk to them. This quote just nails the adolescent mindset perfectly. Trying to scare a teen about lung cancer in 30 years, it's probably not going to work. But telling them smoking will make their teeth yellow right now, that's way more likely to get their attention. They're all about the immediate, tangible consequences, not the far-off, abstract ones. So our journey now brings us to its final chapters, adulthood and the process of aging. This is a time of, yes, physical change, but also of incredible accumulated wisdom and this deep reflection on the life that's been lived. As we get older, it's no secret our bodies and our brains change. I mean, you can see in these scans that with normal aging, the brain might lose a little bit of its weight, and some of the spaces inside it can get a bit larger. But here's what's truly remarkable. As long as there's no disease, our actual fundamental intelligence stays pretty much the same. That's incredible. Sure, physical strength does decline over time, and you might have some of those senior moments with memory. But psychologically, this stage of life is so important. It's a time for looking back. People reflect on their whole lives, and they can come away with this sense of ego integrity, basically a feeling of satisfaction. Or on the flip side, a sense of despair. And we have to talk about this. Depression is actually the most common psychiatric issue among the elderly, and it's often brought on by the many losses that can come with this age. And it is so important to draw a clear line between normal grief and clinical depression. They are not the same thing. Grief is a natural process. It's focused on the loss of someone else, and it usually eases over time. Depression, though, that's an illness. It's more of a focus on a loss of self. The symptoms just don't stop, and it really needs treatment. Understanding that difference is absolutely critical. And just like that, our journey comes full circle. From that very first involuntary grasp to a whole lifetime of memories. It really makes you think, doesn't it? When you look back at your own life, your own journey, what was that one moment, that one challenge, or that big milestone that truly made you, you?